guys, Brie here, and welcome back to my channel. This video is my most disappointed reads of 2020. This is also a video I love to do. If you watch the books I loved video, in that video, I don't just talk about 4 or 5 star books. I talk about books I loved regardless of rating. So there was some 3 and 3.5 stars in that pile. And so just like in that video, this video is not about all the books that I hated or disliked. These are about books that I had high expectations for, not even high expectations for, I was looking forward to reading them. And they didn't quite meet my expectations. So there's going to be some 4-star reads in here. And yeah, it's, like I said, another video I love to do every year. But before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you so much. All the comments you guys have been leaving on the videos that I've posted since I've been back have been so sweet, really kind. And I'm just glad you guys are enjoying my videos. So thank you so much for that. And then I just have to say that I've been laughing at myself. Like, at first I was annoyed, but then I was like, the stakes are so low, like, who cares? When I finally noticed that the videos I've been uploading have been formatted wrong. So if you watch them on the computer, there's black bars, which is so frustrating. And then my thumbnails, I thought I would, you know, get a little fancy and do a little purple bubble with white text on my thumbnail to say like what the video is. On every one of my thumbnails, you like some part of the words you can't read, either because the timestamp is in front of it or it's too high in the photo, and I'm just like, I had to laugh so hard at myself because I was like, a mess. But yeah, but whatever. Yeah, I just had to crack that up. So maybe the thumbnail will be good. Maybe this video will be uploaded correctly. Who knows? I sure don't. So yeah, anyways, enjoy the video. Let's get started. So just like in my books of 2020 that I loved, I'm going to start with books that I don't actually own yet. And the first one I'm going to start with is Dance, Dance, Dance by Haruki Murakami. I give this book 2 stars and 2.5 stars, and honestly I was struggling to finish it. So the main character, his girlfriend goes missing. He goes to find her. When he searches in this hotel to try and find her, the lights all go out, and then he ends up in this room that has this creepy creature in it. Now, I did not know that this was book 4 in a series that I think continues. The creepy creature pops up on and off again. I was under the impression that I could read this by itself. But regardless, it just, like, sucked. Like, I don't understand. If you do love this book, please let me know why you loved it. Please, please let me know. And I don't mean in terms of writing characters. I want to know plot-wise why you loved it, because this book literally, what? Like, that's literally what I felt like when I finished it. And I made myself finish it because Haruki Murakami, I thought I'd read another book of theirs, but I hadn't. I think I tried to read it and I DNF'd it maybe. I swear that, like, or maybe I just flipped through it, or maybe I kept trying to pick up Dance, Dance, Dance. Either way, I have no record on my GoodReads of me reading another book or even DNFing another book of his. But I knew going into this, when I was finally pushing through, that I knew the writing style might not be for me. But I really like to give authors a shot when I kind of commit to reading an author. He also wrote 1Q84, which is on my shelf and that I do plan on reading. But back to the book. This guy is on a search for his long-lost girlfriend. Along the way, he befriends this like 14-year-old whose parents don't pay attention to her, but and they're not together any longer, but they have a lot of money, but I don't want to watch her all the time. So then he goes on vacations with her, and this guy, this bachelor, he just says weird stuff, and he's a little creepy, and just like, there's nothing about him that's like stand-out-ish or that's interesting to me. Like, he just, oh my god. And I listened to it on audio, and just his voice, even his voice, sorry the narrator, was just annoying. And so that's literally the whole plot, is him trying to find his girlfriend, and there's a random creepy creature in the hotel, and he does have an adult friend, and then he's like obsessed with this movie that he keeps imagining himself in when they get to like the sex scene. I don't know. Again, I'm sorry, my first review of this video is such a mess, but honestly, if you enjoyed this book, and I mean the plot, please tell me why, because I genuinely do not get it. Didn't care for any aspect of it at all. So there was no real plot, and I ended up just rolling my eyes and shrugging my shoulders and being like, okay, I finished Murakami. Yeah, honestly. And I didn't hate it though. I was just really confused as to why people loved this book. I mean, it has a 4-star rating, 4.05 star rating on GoodReads. Blows my mind. Yeah, I'm never reading another Haruki Murakami unless I tackle 1Q84. I know someone in real life who loves Haruki Murakami, so I really need to remember one day to ask them what they thought about this book. I might tackle 1Q84. They themselves told me 1Q84 is quite different from his other works, so maybe I'll actually enjoy it. But in terms of Murakami as a whole, I'm done with the author. And so the next book is a manga. Actually a part 2 manga, and it's about a high school students, one guy that, he goes out on like, he will only go out with each girl for like 7 days, and then he dumps them and never talks to them again or whatever. And so they end up falling in love though over the 7 days, and he like tells them to go out with him like kind of as a joke, thinking he won't accept because they've always been girls before, and they end up falling in love, whatever. So I ended up only picking this up on a whim because I was kind of in a reading slump. I wanted something that I could read quickly, and I've been looking at something kind of fun and silly to read, and I think GoodReads or somehow this book was popped up and recommended to me, and it's called Date Me Bryson Keller by Kevin Van Why? And everyone in the comments was so angry because they said they ripped off this comic 7 days. And it's the same thing, they're in high school, and he, as a joke, asks him to date him for a week or something. I don't know, whatever. And they go to this private boys' school, and everyone was mad because they said they ripped it off of 7 days. Well, naturally, I wanted to read then the original. And I used to be really into manga when I was in middle school, but since then, I have not been able to focus on it. So a lot of times, this may just be me, but a lot of times I don't know what is up in my brain. I can't follow the bubbles half the time. Like, it generally I'm like, and then it's like there's pages and pages of just like deep text, like mangas do. I'm like, who is saying this? Like, there's no so as I got older, I was like, I can't do manga anymore. But this sounded like such a cute idea, and I was like, well, I want to read the original. And it's really messed up that someone would be ripping off someone else's work. I have to say that I gave this 3 stars. Concept's fun and cute. It was just boring and surprisingly way too long. There's 2 volumes in this, and again, just way too long. Like, how can that be? I do not know. But not even in a good, like, oh, there's a reason why it's dragged out, like there's conflict and drama. There really wasn't conflict and drama, and even when it comes to the feelings about it, I don't know. I have trouble reading manga, and I just felt like there was a lot of air in the book. Does that make sense? Probably not. I feel like there was a lot of air, and so I just didn't vibe with any of it. And now I kind of want to read the fiction book Date Me Bryson Keller because my brain just works better with print or with fiction, prose, whatever, with that kind of format than manga does. So I'm really curious. Unless I get it for free or something, or there's like a very cheap Kindle deal though, or I rent it from the library, I probably won't be touching Date Me Bryson Keller either though. But I just had to say that that's how I found the book, found the manga, and I just, so yeah. And those are the 2 books that I do not own. Dance 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 by Haruki Murakami and 7 Days by Rohito Takurai. And the illustrator is also the same, as well as Vinio Tachibana. I wanted to make sure I said the names, of course, which I realized I didn't say in the beginning. But yeah, those are the authors and illustrator. But yeah, so let's get on to books that I actually have physical copies of, and we're going to start with the classics that disappointed me. And let me tell you, I'm gonna talk about this one first, and then the next one I have to talk about breaks my heart to mention the books. So the first book is The Warden by Anthony Trollop. Oh, it's a very sunny day today. Let's see, how do they, yeah, pretty cool. There we go. Pretty cool cover. Yeah. So I gave this 2.8 stars. What this essentially boils down to is that this guy is in charge of like the church grounds. I don't even know what his position is. I couldn't remember, whether this is the beginning of the year. And it's been written in the decree, or the lands, or the church contract, whatever, that his position means he gets a bunch of money every year, and everyone who works the land and upkeeps it, gets barely anything, which is, you know, the way of the world. And he feels guilty about it. There's this guy, John Bold, that comes to town because he wants to lead the reform of this whole thing because he thinks it's really unfair and unjust. But he's also in love with the warden's daughter. So this whole book is literally the warden going through a moral quandary about how it's not fair and what he can do about it. And he wants to decline the pounds, the money that he's supposed to be getting. But then, you know, how is he going to take care of his daughter? This is his income. This is how he survives. And if he makes it equal between him and other people, he's gonna be barely able to live, just like they're barely able to live. But mainly he's worried about his daughter. And really, this was way too long. It's like barely almost 300 pages. This was way too long. It was really just him overthinking everything. And then the other guy, the young man, you know, having the moral quandary of like, you know, how do I approach this topic with the father of the woman I'm in love with? Okay, that could have been like 20 pages. Like, I just didn't care, but I was really excited to read this because this is book 1 of the Chronicles of Barset Shadow series, and I think I have another book in this series, and I definitely have another book by Anthony Trollop that I also think is part of a series. And so for me, I was just bummed because I don't really think I'm going to be continuing with the series. And so what is also a bummer is that I also tried to read Can You Forgive Her by Anthony Trollop a couple years ago. Me and my friend Buddy read it, and we both DNF'd it because nothing was happening. It's like 700 something pages and nothing was happening. So I was really excited to like go for these 2 long classic series. And Anthony Trollop right now, those are the only 2 books I've read by him. They have just been miss after miss after miss. And I do have a couple other books that I want to read. I want to read The Way We Live Now by him. But honestly, yikes, I might give him one more shot, but 2 is usually my max, to be honest, and so I've just not been impressed by him. So that was really my whole thing, is I just didn't understand why I was spending 300 pages on this story, in particular, you know, so it's like, eh. The next author I'm going to talk about, I love this author. He's one of my favorites, classic writers. So I have 2 books of his to talk about. Oh, it makes me so sad. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is Poor Miss Finch by Wilkie Collins. The man, the myth, the legend, Wilkie Collins. So I gave this book, let's see, 4 stars. So here's an example of one I highly rated but was disappointed by. I was disappointed because I love Wilkie Collins. I've read maybe 5 of his books now. The Woman in White and The Moonstone, which are his most well-known, are my favorites. And the thing about the 2 books I'm going to talk about is his plots, oh my gosh, sorry, I keep moving you guys. His plots are fun and wild and full of drama. So my real complaints are just going to be about maybe the pacing and some of the characters. So Poor Miss Finch is about a blind girl and 2 identical twins who fall in love with her, and it has the complications, you know, it has exciting complications and all this stuff, but that's basically the plot. And at one point, well, I won't say anything then, I don't want to spoil anything, but it just becomes, this is just another case where it was too long. So over 400 pages, and I feel bad, but the main girl got on my nerves so much, like I rolled my eyes so hard when I was reading this book. But the plot, you know, it is fun, it is a good plot. I just, in particular, was bummed because I don't think he kept up the exciting pace that his other books do. Or maybe this was just not the right time for me to read it. But I didn't care for the main girl that they were fighting over, and that's a huge portion of the book. And then it just felt like the whole, like, not talking to each other or not working things out, or, you know, it would be dishonorable for me to stop the lie now that it's gone on so long, or how can I possibly, you know, tell the truth now? And it's like, no, but you can find it in you to do it. You can. I promise you'll, you know, you can do it. Speak. But yeah, so that's really my shtick with this. But again, 4 stars. Poor Miss Finch. But yeah. The second book by Wilkie Collins is Armadale. Now, when I tell you this book has everything, it has everything. Literally everything. Again, genius plot from Mr. Collins. When the elderly Alan Armadale makes a terrible confession on his deathbed, he has little idea of the repercussions to come, for the secret he reveals involves the mysterious little Lydia Gwilt, who critics at the time hated because she's like a temptress, a bigamist, laudanum addict, and husband poisoner. Like, this girl rules. I wasn't expecting that. That was a great perk, just having this completely out for herself, didn't care who she stepped on, devious, woman. That was fun. Her malicious intrigue fuels the plot of this gripping melodrama, a tale of confused identities, inherited curses, romantic rivalries, espionage, money, and murder. So when I say this book has everything, again, I genuinely mean it. It has everything. I gave it 3 stars. And again, all I could say about it is that it just, the way it was weaved together left me a little bit disappointed in it. There's 2 Alan Armadales. There's one girl they can never meet. One can't know that the other one is. They're friends, but then if they knew the background and the secret. I mean, this is juicy stuff. It genuinely is juicy. I would say, read it. Same with, well, I think this is more intriguing than Poor Miss Finch. So if you definitely read this, I would say over Poor Miss Finch, even though, funnily enough, I gave this one a lower review than Poor Miss Finch. This one is just full of a wild ride. But I had to keep putting it down and picking it back up, because I just was like, okay, are we getting to somewhere yet? Are we getting to somewhere? It takes a little bit too long to weave all the pieces together, and this is about 600 pages long. All my classics, by the way, I'll be keeping on my shelves. I won't be donating them. And again, I didn't give these all horrible reviews, just so. But yeah, I mean, again, it's super interesting, and the mix-up of the names and everything is really fun and really interesting. But then there's also like a 16-year-old or whatever love interest that I didn't care for and didn't really understand why they were fighting for her. And there's just a lot of back and forth, but like too much back and forth of the plot not being pulled forward. So yeah, that was a bummer for me. Okay, I'm going to lug this thing up here, and I have a whole collection that I'm disappointed in, and it may be the worst book buy the worst money I've ever spent on books. Are you guys ready for this? If you followed me for 5 years, you may know what it is, but most likely not. Here we go. Oh. It is the Little Black Classics from Penguin. This is the only book collection, you guys, I had ever bought. I was drawn in only to be swindled, bamboozled. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but honestly, I paid good money for these, and I have read about 6 or 7 of them, and there's 80, and I just do not care for these. I have not cared for a single one. Now, I know 7 out of 80 is not reading enough of them, and I may need to, dip my toe in over the next couple of years and read a couple more, but I just, what? Like, I don't understand how some of these got selected. Like, they just seem so random, and they're so underwhelming with, I've read the first 5, I think. And there's even one in here by my favorite philosopher, which is Friedrich Nietzsche. And I just genuinely, I was like, what? Why would they even choose this excerpt or whatever of his? I don't understand why they would put, I just don't know what the thinking was with this. And there's no cohesion, and there's no, he chose the most boring stuff. I don't get it. So the first one, Mr. Rosie and the Priest, couldn't tell you what it's about. As Kingfishers Catch Fire by Gerard Manley Hopkins. The first one was by Giovanni Boccaccio. I think that's how the double C is pronounced. The Saga of Gunnlaug Serpent Tongue. No author, it's a Scandinavian 10 England story. On Murder, Considered as One of the Fine Arts by Thomas de Quincey. Now this one I thought was going to be really interesting because philosophy, hello. It casts a blackly comic eye over the aesthetics of murder through the ages. Bored me to tears. And then Aphorisms on Love and Hate by Friedrich Nietzsche. Again, my favorite philosopher. I studied philosophy in college. Well, it was one of the things I studied. And so yeah, so look, I didn't even finish this. My bookmark is still in here. So I just, you know, this is one I might actually want to go through and finish, but I think by this point I was trying to read like 5 of these a month, and I literally only got through 5. I was just so let down and I think burnt out by these things that I just didn't want to keep reading. So I'm keeping this, obviously. I paid good money for it. It's a handsome looking collection, but I'm just like, man, I'm never getting pulled in by a book collection ever again. Like, you're not gonna get me. I'm never buying a set like this ever again. I can't do it. But if you guys bought this, and I mean if you bought the whole thing, not just bought these little ones here and there, let me know what you thought, because, or which ones were your favorite, because I genuinely am at a loss for words. I've only read 1 through 5. But I'm really at a loss for words. And let me know if you regret purchasing it as well. So, yeah. Yeah, so for all those little black classics, I either gave them 2 or 3 stars. All my reviews of them on GoodReads are just like, this was boring, I hated it, or what? This was boring. So, there you go. So, the next books I'm going to talk about are not classics. And the first one is Royale by Kashun Takami, and translated by Nathan Collins. And this is a book that a long time ago when the Hunger Games first came out, people were like, oh, she ripped off this concept, junior high students are all taken to an island, and they're provided arms and forced to kill one another until only one survivor is left standing. Sound familiar? So of course I wanted to read the original concept, or what people presume is the original concept, regardless of people's feelings or the right, wrong, whatever. I wanted to read, this is where I first heard about this book, is what I'm trying to get at. So I wanted to read it, and there's this I think is a manga, and then this is the, like, prose fictionalized telling of this book, and it's pretty long. It's 640-ish pages long. This was so disappointing, and unfortunately, I think it was I don't know. So it's a translated work, okay? And it's disappointing because I don't know if it's the translation. I don't know if it's putting it from manga to this format. So I had always thought that the manga came first and then it was adapted into this book. But I am wrong. The book came first, and honestly that makes me even more disappointed, because I had thought maybe if it went the other way there was just things lost in translation. There was just kind of they needed to embellish for sake of it starting off as a manga. But this book, just the writing felt very 2D. All the students felt very 2D, and you go back and forth between a lot of students' perspective. And again, like, I mean, I've been in high school, I've been in middle school, I know what it's like to, like, have a crush on someone, but so many of these students would literally, like, this person is the love of my life, I would die for them. Like, multiple people felt that way. And I was just like, what? Like, these students, I don't think were given enough, I don't know, these students weren't given enough agency or enough personality for me to really feel drawn in, or even to pick, you know, even one of them that I was like rooting for and caring about. I really didn't care about any of them, which is, considering the premise and considering how many students there are, is like shocking, absolutely shocking. It reads like it's poorly translated. So not only does it read like it's poorly translated in terms of word choice, sentences, a lot of sentences repeat themselves. A lot of the same concepts are repeated. The characters think the same things, and like a lot of pages kind of read like they were copy pasted. So, you know, and the original obviously comes from a different culture, so I don't know again if I'm just missing something And I don't know if there's only one translation. This is the only version of this book I've seen. So I'd have to honestly look up to see if there's multiple translations. I didn't care enough to, unfortunately. I didn't care enough to, after I read it, I didn't care enough to know, like, has multiple people written them? People that have complaints, do they say that they think it's a translation issue? I do not know, but it just felt very 2D and very flat. And this is a gorgeous cover, by the way. I'll probably keep this book on my shelves, but yeah, 2.5 stars. I felt like they just didn't feel real to me. It didn't feel like these teens just didn't feel real, and I got angry while I was reading it, thinking that these poor teens are not given enough justice and not being fully formed enough. And then, you know, their motivations, I get it, they're teens and there's some motivations, but there was so much romance in this that it felt like to be too much. Like, you know, to give teens a little bit more credit, not that there's anything wrong with the strong crushes and feelings that you have as a teen towards someone in your class, but I just felt like there was more to them than that, and you could have used different motivations than just being in love or having a crush on someone. And it got repetitive. And every character's point of view, at some point, they were like, I'm doing this for so-and-so, that pretty girl in class whatever, that pretty girl in class whatever. Oh my gosh, do you think that guy likes me? You know, maybe I'll be safe. He's so kind. He's so kind. I don't know. Some of it did feel very like, oh, I could see them saying this. I could see this being like a subplot in a manga, which, again, culture thing, different format and everything. So some of that does make sense. This makes more sense to me as a manga, which apparently a year after it was published, then it became a manga. So I don't really feel like reading the manga though, because I'm kind of bummed by this. But I can almost guarantee that this probably works better in manga format. Manga, like I was saying earlier, I prefer to, like, I don't read manga anymore, I don't watch animes anymore, other than, there's like 2 I still watch. One I love is Naruto, which I completed, and then the follow-up. And my husband, he reads mangas, but then he likes to watch them, like he likes to watch the fight scenes, because you miss a lot of the emotional, you can miss a lot of emotional stuff, and seeing a fight animated is way more cool than reading it in various pictures. You could just pull more emotions out of you. So this reads like a manga for me, in the sense that it's hard for me to pick up on the emotions of things in boxes, and this just, from the teen's motivations to the fighting scene and killing scenes, they just lacked emotion, and it couldn't really conjure up strong feelings for any of the characters. So now that was really fortunate. I've had my eye on this for a really long time, so that was just a really, really huge bummer. And yeah, I'm quite disappointed about this one, but it is what it is. If you've read this though, let me know, especially if you've, you know, either seen the movie adaptation. I think that, yeah, I'm pretty sure there is one. If you read the manga, let me know what you think the best format for this particular writing is, and if you liked it or hated it, which ones you loved and hated, because I am really curious about that. So yeah. Now the next book disappointed me mainly because of the ending, so I am going to be spoiling this book. That's the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Apparently in the US, whichever version this isn't, it's 7.5 deaths. But I was loving this book up until the end. So cut forward a couple pages until I'm holding up a different book, if you don't want to be spoiled. So in this book, the main character, Aiden Bishop, is at a party thrown by Evelyn's parents, where she's killed, and she's gonna be killed again, and he needs to figure out who kills her so that he can be released from this game that he's in or something. He's confused. He wakes up, but every day he wakes up as a different person / character in this typical mansion setting. I love this cover, this typical mansion setting. And yeah, so he has to like leave himself clues when he's like in different parts in different people's bodies and things like that. And this was just fun. honestly, the mechanics don't really make sense. I think if you were to actually map all this stuff out, you know, when he's on day 3 and he's talking to, there's a couple other people in with him that are also having their bodies switched every day, and whoever finds out who killed her first is able to leave. But after 7 days, your memory is wiped of the clues that you've collected and you have to start all over. So it's a race against the clock, essentially, and only one person can leave. And he finds out that the person who is Evelyn is also trapped here. So what I was saying about mechanics is, like, if you're matching up, oh, on day 3 he left himself a note when he was this other person, and oh, I must have left that for myself, I don't think it can really hold, but that doesn't matter. I was having a great time. This was fun. And then one of the coolest things happened. You find out that this is actually a punishment for criminals, is that they're trapped in this world, and people have to solve their murder. So yeah, it's a punishment. I read this at the beginning of the year, so my memory was a little fuzzy on the aspects of that, but it has to do with the prison system and punishment. And so I think that that's just really, really cool. But I got so pissed off. This was gonna be a 4-star read for me. I only gave it, I think, 3.5, because he ends up, like, falling in love with Evelyn, the person that's actually Evelyn, who is this apparently one of the worst criminals the world's ever seen, and is directly responsible for one of the main character's siblings, I think it was, death. And he's just like, I don't care, I know only one of us can get out of here, but no, I'm gonna make it so that we both get out of here. And even if I can't get out of here, we're gonna get you out of here. And from what I recall, it's not explicit that he's, like, in love with her, that he's in love with her, that it's romantic. So this could be my tweaking on that interpretation, but it's not like he got to sit down and chat with her over the course of 2 days. Like, this is literally like a whirlwind mystery. You know, people are trying to kill other people, it's dangerous. Like, he doesn't even know her, and he knows she's directly responsible for her sibling's death. I don't know if this is supposed to also be a commentary on mercy and the justice system and things like this, which is really interesting, but it just reads like a really lame romantic subplot. And there's nothing I hate more in books than lame, unnecessary romantic subplots. Why did you bring that into this? Why did you bring that into this? Like, again, I read this at the beginning of the year, so my memory's a little fuzzy, but I really don't think the reveal of it being like a prison, dealing with the prison system and crime and punishment and stuff was fascinating, but I think the author made the mistake of then not really delving into the main character's dilemma, because his dilemma has less to do with, this is unfair, you know, even if you've committed a horrible crime, to be stuck in this thing over and over again. It misses the mark on that, because the way it's written makes it become about romance instead of about general big themes. Because I think it could have been really interesting about, you know, forgiving someone that's responsible for a loved one's death, forgiving someone who's committed a bunch of crimes and is sincerely sorry or whatever, which, you know, I put like this because, you know, killing someone's a big deal. But yeah, it completely missed the mark. So I think that he should have either ended it by, I don't know, I'm not a writer, but I think that the way that he chose to resolve and think about forgiveness, doing it in a romantic way when the stakes are so high with murder and it's not like they even really got to know each other, felt very lame and kind of cop out. And I felt lame, okay? So I was so bummed, because this book is fun, it's interesting, and then it just had to ruin it. And I honestly don't know if I could even recommend this, because I think the ending is so disappointing. I'd feel bad for telling someone to read this, because I wouldn't be surprised if they were disappointed. So I know I was, but yeah. I gave this 3.8 stars, mainly for the, I think it's pretty genius, this concept. And the reveal was pretty genius as well. It almost feels like kind of like a Black Mirror episode where, you know, there's really more going on and it's really messed up, essentially. And then I just thought the take on the mystery trope was really fun. But endings make or break a book, and this, as much as I loved it and I'm still giving it 3.8 stars, what broke it for me. So Oh my god. Oh, out of focus. So this next book, I don't even really want to talk about, honestly. It makes me feel kind of ill to even think about it, and I mean that sincerely I mean that sincerely. I like mysteries. Mysteries, they tend to get gritty. They tend to get like kind of like when you watch Law and Order SVU, right? There's a lot of messed up, to put it mildly, topics that are talked about in that show. But you binge watch it. It's a crime show, whatever. So the next book I have is The Quill Girl by Eric's Axel Sund, and that is actually a mashup of two authors' names, but they write together, and this is the mashed up name. So this is a huge book, over 830 pages. So for the past couple years, I had two big mystery books on my bookshelf for a long time. One was 6-4. I don't remember the author's name, but I will put it here. Let me down, disappointed me. It was on my most disappointing books, I think, of 2019, or one of the other years, for sure. But I also had this big chunker, and I was determined to finish it as well, because I was like, well, maybe this one won't let me down. And it really did. I gave it 2.5 stars. This is also a translated work. It's translated from Swedish, I believe. So in a Stockholm City park, police find the body of a young boy who was like tortured. And so you follow Superintendent Jeanette Kilberg, who leads the investigation. She turns to therapist Sophia Zetterlund for her expertise in psychopathic perpetrators, and their lives become entwined. So this, frankly, it has, just to be frank, I honestly don't want to go into details. It has to deal with like a sex cult, but a really messed up one. So I'm sure you can get, it has to deal with like trafficking and stuff like that. And again, I don't know if this is a translation error, but the way that the sentences and the story unfolded, it felt choppy, and it ended up just feeling very gross. And like, I skimmed a lot of parts because I was like, I do not want to read about this. I skimmed a lot of parts, but I kept reading because there's such gross, despicable people in this book. I was hoping that bad things would happen to them, to be frank. And then there's just so many awful things about here. Like there's I mean, I don't care about spoiling this book, because I really, really do not recommend people read this. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even know. There was just a lot of offensive both in like, okay, why did you write that? And offensive also in like gross, like I feel ill kind of way. Like I honestly didn't even want to talk about this book, but I genuinely think that people should not read it. And again, some people who love mysteries and stuff might be like, oh, what a baby, like it's, it's just fiction or whatever. And clearly based off of some of the books I've talked about that I loved, I can deal with really upsetting topics in books, but the way it was written, it felt very, and I know that authors didn't mean it this way, pretty sure, it just felt very gross for the sake of being gross. Like we could have skipped some of those scenes. We didn't need to get that detailed. Like we didn't need to, yeah, one of the plot twists that has to deal with, like one of the big plot twists, I was like, what are you trying to say about those people? Like, what do you think about that? Like that wasn't, ugh, that was, ugh. I literally like kind of cringed when one part was revealed. So I don't know. It's also very surprising because it also has a relationship that happens that's surprising, and there are a lot of big twists that are interesting, but I felt more uncomfortable reading this book. I don't know. If you've, I think I got this too from a booktuber recommending this to me years ago. I wish I could remember who it was, because I want to see the review. I can't for the life of me remember who it was, whatever. But if you have read this book by chance, please let me know what you think. Please let me know what you think. One of the reviews says, you will find The Quill Girl to be among the most wide-ranging and forceful Scandinavian crime novels you have encountered. Complex and very dark. It is complex. There are great plot twists. It is very dark, but I just don't think the writing, I think the writing could have been better. Not better the writing could have written this plot in a better way. I think. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a big baby, but not for me. And yeah. And then we have a reread that I lowered my rating. And when I tell you it breaks my heart to say this, it breaks my heart. So we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Now I originally gave this book, I think, 4 stars, and then after my second reading, I gave this book, I originally gave this book 5 stars, and I now gave it 3.8 stars. Song of Achilles, it's a retelling of Achilles and Patroclus, very good, very well mapped out and everything, but I feel like upon rereading that even though this book really explains Achilles more, this is a really good book for Achilles, I would say. Patroclus just feels like this, even though it's told like from his perspective, you just kind of, you can't grab him. He's like air. I don't know, he's like air. Like I feel like, now her format and the way she writes it it's so beautiful. But again, they still don't, but that's also the beauty of it, right? I was gonna say they don't feel like real characters or real people, but that's the beauty of it, is, you know, the believed to be, you know, the mythical in proportions, right? So you're not supposed to be able to really grasp these characters anyways. So the way that she does that is brilliant. It really, really is. But it leaves me a bit disappointed and a bit wanting something more concrete. But it's so, so good. I cried the first time I read this. I didn't cry the second time, but my heart still kind of hurt. Let's see. Briseis, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She does have a big role to play in the Iliad with Achilles and whatever, but if I was doing a retelling, I don't think that I would have involved her as much in this book. If you haven't read it, I really don't want to give away spoilers, but so there's a woman, Briseis, I'm so sorry I'm butchering it, but she kind of gets in the way of the relationship, and again, she plays a bigger role in the Iliad, but again, if I was retelling it, and this is the Achilles and Patroclus story, the divide between them, or the frustrations between them, I would have rather have left her out or done it slightly differently. I don't know. It just, again, I don't know. If I'm reading a story about them, I would really have wanted the conflict to kind of come from somewhere else. Especially because you have the freedom to put whatever you want in these retellings and in these books. And she just would not have been part of those plans. I feel the build up and everything is really beautiful, and I feel like the conflict and frustrations between them and his destiny and all this stuff could have happened without her. But again, she has degrees in Latin and ancient Greek, so for this author, you know, she really does such a great job of, you know, I only studied this very briefly in high school and college, so, you know, I clearly don't know as much about her, and I think as someone who studied it and loves the text so much, it was really important for her to include all these characters that come from the Iliad. And I think in terms of her craft and how much it means to her, she did a beautiful job, but as just a casual reader, I could have done without that character. But this is still really good. I would still tell people to read it. It's good. But yeah, upon rereading, I had to downgrade it a little bit. I was more frustrated near the end than anything. So yeah. And then the last 2 books I'm going to talk about, I own both of these books in German. So let's get started. Some people, I might break some people's heart with this first one, and I'm really sorry. I've heard about this book for years. I've never seen the movie or anything, but I knew that I was going to get around to it eventually. I ended up buying it in German. So we have The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, also known as Die Bücherdiebin in German. I really love this cover. I love the way I love the way Germany publishers format their books. Like, the covers are gorgeous and sleek, and I absolutely love them. I would buy all my books in German if I thought I could still read as fast. Yeah. So this book I gave it 4 stars. So again, this is a high rating one though that disappointed me because I found myself, the longer I read this book, the less I enjoyed it. I know. I'm like, what? And not in a like, oh, I didn't like the way it ended. It's just, it gradually, literally, as I turned each page, I cared less and less about what was going on in this book. But I was determined to finish it because the setting and the stakes were getting higher. So it's not like the tension wasn't ramping up. It was just my feelings that were diminishing for it. Okay, so we have a lighting change because I forgot to charge my camera. So I had to do that, and then, you know, life gets away from you. But we're back. I think I remember what I said, but we're just gonna wing it. I believe I was talking about The Book Thief by Zuzak. I am going to keep the German version on my bookshelves. Actually, I'll probably end up keeping both on my bookshelves because it is kind of a iconic book. And again, I gave it 4 stars. I didn't dislike it. It's just that weird thing of me enjoying it less as it went on. Very heartbreaking though. Yeah, very, very heartbreaking, but yeah. And then the last book to talk about, which I also have in German, oh, refocus, is Perfume, The Story of a Murderer by Patrick Suskind. Yeah, by Patrick Suskind, sorry. Yeah, the German version isn't that great. And then this one is just okay. So I'd seen this movie first years ago. I forgot that the ending was dumb, but to be fair to the movie, the ending is true to the book, so kudos on them. Actually, the movie, in terms of a movie adaptation, is very, very good. But, so it sounds interesting. John Baptiste is born to a woman in a fish market. She's like over it. This is like her 5th baby or whatever. She can't afford him, has other things to think about. So she leaves him on the street and she gets executed because she left her baby out to die. And he grows up having a keen sense of smell, can't relate to others, and he's just obsessed with finding a good smell. So he eventually is working on cataloging all these scents, and he makes his way to a perfumer, and he wants to create like the best scent ever. And then one day he is creeping on some girl and he's like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful, she smells good. And she freaks out like, what are you doing in my room? And he kills her. And I don't remember what the process is called when you like pull a scent from something, but he does it, pulls a scent from her, and so he's on his quest to form this perfect ultimate scent. And so he has to kill a bunch of other girls to create this scent. Now this sounds creepy and really interesting, and it's not. It's so like boring. I think I gave this 2.5 stars. It's just boring. It goes on and on about the smells and scents, but the plot is just like, eh. At one point he goes and he lives in the mountains forever, like not caring about eating or drinking. It's honestly like, who cares? I can't believe such a great, interesting plot boils down to who cares. I would say watch the movie, gets its point across way quicker, really interesting. The end is still stupid, but it's like, eh, it is what it is. I won't say what the ending is just because I know every once in a while this pops up and people want to read it, so I don't know. The writing is fine, but I think unfortunately it's just over detailed. I think if they had cut out a lot, I think this could work more as like a novella. I think this would work really well as a novella or a short story, because I think the extra stuff just bogs down and you're so interested to see where this is gonna go. Like, is he gonna get caught? There is a bit of a chase in the book. Like, is he gonna get caught? Like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? And then the end is just kind of fantastical and you're like, okay. I read all that for that. So I had kind of forgotten, so me getting excited to read this book is kind of my fault because I did kind of forget that I didn't like the ending of the movie even though I loved everything else. So it's not necessarily the book's fault, but still I had expectations. They weren't met. blah, 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 blah. But yeah, and I am not keeping either of these on my shelf. So I will be getting rid of these and donating them. But yeah, so these are all the books that disappointed me. As you can see, I have anywhere from 2 stars all the way up to 4 stars, because that's just the way I like to do the video. It's really fun for me. And yeah, as always, let me know if you guys have read any of these books, what you think, if you completely disagree with me, or if you agree with me. Yeah, I would love to hear. And I hope you guys, as always, enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.